There we are. Fantastic. Look at that. We're live, plugged into LinkedIn and YouTube at the same time and no complications.
That's great.
Hey, it works out for me. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We are here with Miss Chloé Messdaghi. Did I do it right?
Yeah, you did. You did fabulous.
Yes. It's almost like I practiced all morning for 2 hours.
So what are you drinking right now?
That is a big old fat cup of coffee. I was going to put a little liquor in it, but I figured the professionalism needed to stay on.
That's understandable. It is the night after election, and we still don't know the results.
Yeah, so yay.
I'm just drinking tea and carrying on.
There you go. I mean, that's all you can do, right? In situations like this, there's not much else.
I mean, the whole world's watching. I mean, the stress is like enormous on everyone's shoulders right now.
See, but I'm that jerk that makes jokes at a funeral. You know what I mean? That stress, like that's how I deal with negative emotions in any kind of way whatsoever.
Hey, we all cope in our own ways in life, but you know, sarcasm is always the finest in this hour. So,
I mean, what, you got that, or just be really at your wit's end. So
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's 2020. I mean, what else can they throw at us, right? At this point, I mean,
don't open that. What?
Don't open the Pandora box. I'm gonna knock on some wood now. I mean, I'm not superstitious, but I will knock on some wood right now. Hold on. There we go.
Dang it, Chloé.
It's just a Wednesday morning.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so for those who don't know Chloé, Chloé is the VP of Awesome at Point 3 Security and also the volunteer for a slew of things. And one of those things changed name from, I think it was what,
WeAreHackerz to WeAreHackerz.
WeAreHackerz, right. Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about each one of those volunteer things, and then kind of how that relates to your passion for what you guys do at Point 3, and I'll just drink coffee.
Excellent. So I do all the work, you relax. This is normal. I mean, I'm used to this behavior. No, just kidding. Okay. So let's first dive into the first one. So WoSEC, which I'm the co-founder of. Basically, I met with Tanya Janka at DEF CON back, I think, 2018. And basically, she's like, hey, I have this idea of having basically free access for women to network, and where they never have to pay a membership fee, and they can network and learn about security. So if they're entering security or if they're in security, no matter what role they have, they're welcomed. And I'm like, I love this idea. And we're going to have chapters all over the world. I love this idea. And that is how WoSEC got created. So I do head the SF Bay Area chapter, but I'm also the president of WoSEC. And basically we have chapters all over the world for women and non-binary to attend, to network with one another, but also to learn from one another. Some of us, we do brunches once a month. Of course, now in person, that's not really happening. So it's over camera, like right now. It's a great experience if you're trying to find a good community, because one thing is that I almost left security because being a woman, it sucked. Just putting it out there, it's really hard. I mean, within my first year, I dealt with discrimination, harassment, and I was like, wow, I don't think I want to be here anymore. But the thing is that I found other people in the community that would, you know, be there for me, support one another, and so on. And so I stayed in the community. So WoSEC was created because I didn't want any women around the world to ever feel isolated or alone in this space, and I want them to thrive. And so that's why WoSEC was created. And then when I was working at Bugcry, I came across a report, it basically stating that 4% of the hackers around the world identify as women. And that more than
wait. I'm going to stop you. For those who don't know what Bugcry is, can you give a little?
Sure.
I think everybody
So BugCrowd provides a bug bounty platform, but also vulnerability disclosure programs. So this allows hackers to report vulnerabilities, get paid, or get kudos through a third party, which basically is this platform that basically it allows bilateral trust amongst the hackers in the community and organizations to know about their vulnerabilities. And so basically that's what BugCrowd does. It provides that type of platform so then hackers can disclose safely, but also know what's in scope, and also to reinforce, not to exploit either. So it's a really good company there that has this bug bounty. Basically, bug bounty is one of those things that has helped our hacker community in so many ways. One, it actually, now companies are starting to trust the hacker community for the first time in history, but also it has been challenging the biases that exist in public perception of what are hackers. But so when I worked at BugCrowd, I came across that report that 4% are women, and then that more than 91% identify as men. And that hit me where I was like, well, someone's got to do something about that. And so then I created a community called WeAreHackerz. But at the time, it was called Women Hackers, and it was for women and non-binary. But then I realized that that name really does exclude those that are non-binary. It also it can exclude others. So WeAreHackerz, the name itself, is welcoming to all hackers around the world that identify as a marginalized gender. And they're welcome in our space to have workshops, to communicate with one another, network with each other virtually. And once again, it's free. So that's how WeAreHackerz was born. And it's been around for over a year. We have over 1,000 people around the world now on there. And then my third project, there's a list if you haven't known this yet.
That's why I know this, the marvelous Chloé, right? I was like, this
everything. The other thing that I also co-founded is called Hacking is Not a Crime. So basically, if you remember what I was talking about when it comes to bug bounty and how it's important to have companies like BugCrowd involved, because the thing is, it provides this bilateral trust between hackers and organizations, but also allows us to disclose safely, where we don't have to worry about being prosecuted. But also, the other thing is to change the narrative of what is a hacker. So Hacking is Not a Crime is an organization that I co-founded with Brian. And basically what we're looking to do is change the public perception of who are hackers, so then we can influence and change the current legislation. Because the current legislation that we have is very much out of date, but it definitely has been used as a weapon against hackers that are in good faith, are just trying to submit a vulnerability for them to fix it, not to take advantage of it. And it's really important to understand is that when there's a vulnerability and a hacker is disclosing it to you, they're trying to protect you from attackers who won't disclose it to you, but take advantage of the situation, and then you end up having a breach. So it's really important to understand is that hackers are your friends. They are your locksmiths, in other words, and attackers are the ones that have an ill intent, so a criminal intent to get money or to collect data off of you. And that's the difference between the two parties. The thing is that a lot of people around the world don't know there's a difference between hackers and attackers, and that's what we see also in the media. So we'll work with the media to try to change that narrative for people to realize that this narrative has hurt the hacker community in so many ways that 1 out of 4 hackers will not disclose a vulnerability because they're afraid of being prosecuted. So that's the thing to think about, is that, the hacker community, unfortunately, has been seen in a very dark light. And it's not even a light. But basically, you always will see them with the hoodie in the basement. And it's
been all hacked with leather gloves on.
Yeah, exactly. When I hack, I wear a ski mask because it seems comfortable. No, like
My face gets cold sometimes, I guess.
If my face was that cold.
It's super bad. And, you know, it starts, I've heard stories. My husband was the IT department head for a local college here that did, you know, taught network admin and those kind of like associate type programs. And there were some young students that without a safe place to, I don't know, stretch their legs, kind of, which is what Will does. And by the way, if anybody's curious where Will is taking care of some personal things today. He's doing some moving, and he was dog tired last night. I think he messaged me at like 2:30 in the morning and was like, I'm really sorry. But I was like, no, man, go take care of you and your family. I'm sure me and Chloe got plenty to talk about. But anyway, that's something that Will and PIMA Community College, through their IT Center of Excellence, strives to provide the community around Tucson, Arizona with, is just a free place to come and kind of knock around and try things out, right? Because back to the husband part, there was a young student that came and stretched his legs on their network and caused a bit of disruption for their day. And then immediately they brought, you know, Joshua as the head of IT in, the guy that was taking a walk, and some, you know, an incredible show of law enforcement that also showed up to figure all this out. And then Joshua got in a little bit of hot water because, anyway, there was some claims that, well, you're teaching them to do this. And he was like, this isn't bad. Like, you don't understand. We'd much rather it had been him. Now let's go fix all the stuff that he figured out how to break, right? Like that was always very much so his point of view. But law enforcement, right? And like all the powers that be at the college were suddenly all in a room together, like persecuting this guy for just, I don't know, exploring the curiosity that he had. And it's organizations like, you know, like the ones that you're involved in, that, and like the ones that Will McCullen head up, that are just so important to spotlight, I think, across the community, especially for anyone who's incoming, just to know that there are safe ways to do things, right?
Safe ways.
Yeah, to keep yourself out of hot water while the rest of us try to work on changing the view that the rest of the world has on what it is that you do.
Yeah, exactly.
You got some people on your side, man. Just just so everybody knows. And I'll share links to everything later. Okay, so we have all of these wonderful things that you do, which, by the way, I am not even as nearly awesome at everything as some of the members of those groups, and as you are, Chloe, but still being kind of on the outskirts of the industry. I have experienced discrimination, a bit of sexual harassment that has definitely happened. But you know what? There's a positive though. There's never a line for the women's bathroom, and it's always clean and stocked. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, that's the greatest thing, is that, you know, you see the line is, there's no line whatsoever. And when you go in, you know, there's a chance you might have privacy, so you can dance in the bathroom if that is what you want to do, because no one's there to watch you. So, I mean, that's what happens in the women's restroom. No one knows that, but we dance in there. We have a little dance party in there.
Are you kidding me? It's like a breakdance battle, right? Get out there.
Yeah.
Do some spinning. I love it. It's gonna be awesome. And that's how, you know, InfoSec women's clubs start. That we just saw that. We're like, cool. So you're the one other female here.
Yeah. I mean, usually what happens is, I remember when I would first start going to conferences, and I I would just be like, okay, where's another woman? Where's another woman? Please say there's another woman in here. I don't want to be the only one here. And then I see another woman, and then she sees me, and then we're like, I see you. And then we start gravitating to each other like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not alone now. Let's go get lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much every time. But yeah, no, I've had some interesting experiences. For me, when in the beginning of my first year going to conferences, I would say that like I've been assaulted twice by men. I've also had situations where I was followed to my hotel room a few times. I've also had 2 instances of someone trying to get into my hotel room. So I don't stay at hotels anymore. Not like I can travel right now anyway. But
yeah, we're not going anywhere.
But it's one of those things where like if you ever see me at a conference, I'm literally walking with probably like 1 or 2 of my male colleagues at all times now. Because it just gets to a point where you're just like, well, I guess I want to just have to take that extra initiative to be a little bit more safe. Because, you know, sometimes you have to be really careful. But I have to admit, I haven't had any incidents really from hacker conferences. It's mostly been like those vendor conferences. We're talking about the large ones where you have a good number of people from sales or executives. Those are the ones that I have had those bad experiences. So,
yeah, my one instance so far that was just, I mean, there's been little things here and there that have been said or done or assumptions made because I'm a woman, but the one that just probably is going to come up in therapy way later down the line too, right? Like definitely going to be something forever, was a very high up level executive that, and it wasn't even in person. Like that level of harassment doesn't have to come face to face. It was phone calls and some other messaging. That was not okay.
Yeah, I always tell people that when it comes to conferences, I'm very, very scared of like basically men that are executives because they have the ability to play it off and get away with it.
Yeah.
And those are always really, really scary moments. And also on when you go to conferences, they always assume that like if you have a speaker badge, it must be your husband's badge, which is one of those things. Or you'll go to like these networking events and you're dressed to the tees, and then like the guys be like, so when are the food coming out? Or, hi, can you go get me a martini? I'm like, what? And like you're like dressed to the nines, like for a gala, okay, and they still think that you're a waitress. It's really infuriating, but it's at the same time I've been thinking of like making badges like not a waitress for next time for a black hat and just have it everywhere at all times.
Yeah. Something I experience a lot of, and then I'm gonna talk about the positive end of this. Okay,
we'll go positive. It's already
a pal of mine actually is in the LinkedIn chat. Buddy asked, what advice would you give to women who have experienced this sort of harassment? Self-defense classes, get a CCW. Don't stand for it.
So if this happens at your work, call the police, have a report done. Don't go to HR. Go to the police, make your report, because then they have to take it seriously and they don't have to discount it. So it's really, really, really important is to, if everyone can take away one message, which is let every single woman know. And it's not even just women too. It's also men experience this too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's
people from the trans community have experienced this too. Let them know that if they have experienced any harassment or anything like that, make a police report. Because then conferences, employers have to take it seriously, and that person will have to face some penalty from it. So, and that's what we want, because right now is that if you are a woman, you report something to HR, the chances are you will be removed within a matter of weeks they'll find some way to let you go because they see you as a problem, and that guy stays there. This is why, like, I think it's the number, it's 95% of cases to HR never gets resolved when it comes to these type of cases. So it's really important to understand that 98% also of those that do go forward don't face any consequences. So that's the issue that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not all bad all the time, right? There's a wonderful, like, okay, for instance, me or Chloe, you can come to us. We will 100%, like,
you come to us, we will help you out. We will make you go through. We will, just come to us.
It's okay. So I think I've probably suffered more of the virtual harassment piece, because once people see me in person, they realize that I'm like 6'1" and built like a linebacker. And they're like, that doesn't look like a target. So it's kind of, I don't know. And then I have this great way of completely ignoring it whenever it's in my face. And I'm like, that didn't happen because that's wildly inappropriate and you already know it. And I'm just going to talk really loudly right now so everyone around us can see what you're doing. Finger guns. Like, it's okay. We got to talk about point 3 security, at least a little bit. Okay.
Point 3 security. So one thing about point 3 security is that our mission is basically to cultivate talent, but also to be able to know what are the strengths and weaknesses on your team and individual performance. So basically, it's a platform that you can have. There's hundreds of challenges on there on various different. Everything in security pretty much is on there, and we have new challenges that come out all the time. But it's all gamified because we've realized that the best way to learn information in a short amount of time is to gamify it. And so basically, what we have is this ecosystem that we call Escalate. And basically, it allows employees to up their skills, but also employers to have an idea of what are the elements on their team that they need to focus more on, what are the holes on their team, but also to know individual performance. And the thing to note about that is that it's really good to note where your security team stands, but also when you're trying to think of promoting or to hire someone, you have a really good idea of what that person's ability is. And the one thing to note about is that because it takes away the biases that exist to a certain extent, because now it's like, well, just prove what you can do. Instead of like, well, this person's been here for this many years, this person has that. Instead, it's just like the person has the capability to do this. This is what they can do. And it really changes the whole dynamics because we're seeing more and more people of color, also women, getting promoted. We're also seeing them getting hired because they're using it, because now we've changed the hiring process, where now when people submit their applications, then they take our challenges and then we see which ones do well and then push us forward. And the one thing that we see time over again and again is that certs and years of experience does not mean you can actually do that job.
Right. I was just getting ready to say that eliminates the confusion for departments that aren't sure what certs are to what or signify what, or it takes
everything. Because you have to understand, like, most of the time companies, they have HR and they're like, okay, that person doesn't have those certs or that years of experience, so they get rid of that applicant. And those are people of color. Those are people that are underrepresented. And that is the issue right there, is that human biases still exist. Like, even if you are, if there's one woman to 4 men applicants, she has a 0 chance of being interviewed. Period. So that's letting you know human biases do exist. So instead, we're like, here, why don't you just do this? Can they do this? And then that's what we do. So point 3 security, we're kind of like one of those, we're trying to change the industry. We're trying to reduce the gatekeeping. We're trying to change at least notice and share that human biases exist in the hiring process, but also in when showing recognition for people.
Well,
And
yeah.
It's frustrating when you see that you keep seeing these people being recruited and all that, but then they can't even stay in that role for more than a couple months because they don't have the abilities that they stated that they do.
Right. Or their understanding of what abilities were being asked of them is different than what the business really intended to say they needed. The other thing I really like about that is it not only levels the playing field across gender and race, but also economic brackets, right? Because there's a lot of folks that are under some of those economic brackets that would allow them to be able to afford to take certifications. First and foremost. That's something that Josh and I always just had deep discussions about. My husband, Josh, sorry if I didn't say that, was, you know, him working with a community college with associates programs. You would see lower income people come through, and I'm sure Will McCullen with PIMA experiences it too, where they just, I mean, they can't afford to even take the test. They can't afford to sign up for the classes, which is so great. Because if you guys go on YouTube, I'm just telling you right now, there are a lot of people that are, I think even a friend of mine, Ryan Cloutier, and the guys over at Security Studio and FR Secure, they offer a assist mentor program. And I think it's free. Don't quote me on that. Oh my gosh, please don't everybody go knock on Ryan's door and be like, Rachel said it was free.
True though, is that like, our industry, to get into this industry, and like it takes up to 2 years to get a role as a pen tester. And the thing is that it's just one of those things that's really annoying, because there are people that cannot afford getting certs, and that's a huge issue. Is like we're not making it easier, and we have a huge shortage of personnel, and we have a large skills gap. So how are we going to fix that if us as an industry don't come together and realize that we need to reduce some costs here? Because that is, if you keep saying you want diversity and inclusion and equity, you are not going to get that until you change that situation.
Yeah. Well, Chloe, I know you've got to jump. So thank you so much for sitting around and having some coffee with us. I really do appreciate it. I love what you guys are doing over there, and I look forward to following up and hanging out more. We should do that.
Yes, I agree. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me, and hi everyone, and stay safe.
You too.
All right. Thanks again. And if anyone has any remaining questions, feel free to reach out. My DMs are always open, or connect on LinkedIn.
Same here, guys.